following episode was recorded without the microphone being fully plugged in. However, I think that the episode's integrity and lighthearted authenticity is crucial to its message, and so it is presented as it was recorded. Please enjoy. Be aware for the odd studio crinkling of other things, sounds, and I hope that you grow through it. And I appreciate you listening. Thanks for showing up. Hey, gorgeous you. Welcome. Today we're going to jump right into why are we not progressing in our life in certain areas. And I can tell you in my own life, there are a few things that I'm not progressing in. And I know exactly why. I have some subconscious barriers that I have been, becoming aware of and addressing those, dismantling those old, old survival belief systems, and slowly implementing a very new idea of how to show up for myself in my own life. And how might that translate to you? What is it right now in your life that you're wanting to see more progress in? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's, I'm going to name off my things, right? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your business and the way that you are, I'm working on multiple projects in my business and they're just not going fast enough. Why is that? Maybe it is relationships and the people around you. You're not getting the relationship return that you want, right? Maybe it is hobbies, right? Maybe the things that you really want to do, you're not able to do because you lack the time or the money or the health to do so. When we look at why we're not progressing in our own life, we have to start looking not externally, because the most significant barriers that we are going to be facing, time, money, health, those are real and they are significant and they are external factors, but it is our internal self-belief system that is creating those external circumstances and realities for us. And if we have been raised in a survival mechanism where we have lacked the love, the compassion, and the understanding from the people who raised us or who were the primary people in our lives who taught us what our self-belief system would look like, then we likely might be sitting within some really self-toxic waters. Those might be coming to, dare I say, manifest in your own life with a belief system of not being capable, not being smart enough, not being strong enough, not worthy. Your self-belief system, or lack thereof, is going to challenge every single idea, thought, dream, reality, just even the reality of the book that I'm, 90% done on. I recognize that some of my survival mechanisms steer me in the wrong direction with managing my time. That isn't because I don't have enough time. It's because my survival mechanisms are keeping me from avoiding the task at hand, the thing that is the most important to me, the thing that is going to be a prominent keystone of the business. So why would I do that to myself? Because I am still stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and stagnation. Those are my survival mechanisms. Those are what kept me underwater in narcissistic relationships for 5 decades. Those don't just stop easy. So today we're going to talk about some of the subconscious survival mechanisms that might be keeping you stuck, playing life small, playing life through your subconscious, through your nervous system. So I really want you to, take this with a bit of grace. Sometimes it's really hard when we focus that lens onto ourselves, but it is the only way that we will change our life. If we are always viewing our life through the lens of our past, we will never progress. We will never finish that book. We will never be healthy and climb those mountains or travel to international travel. We will never have the income level that we want to attain to give us the freedoms of the life that we dream of. Other people dream and create their dreams into reality, and therefore that is proof that you can too. Okay, so before we start talking about that, I want you to just visualize something that you used to think was absolutely impossible. Okay, I'll do something really, really silly and really, really easy. So we don't have to do something super deep and hurtful, but we can just envision something like I used to think nobody could bake a cheesecake from scratch without burning it and cracking the top of it. Because that's what I was told. I was told by somebody who was unable to get a cheesecake to turn out in baking that it was impossible. Nobody could do it. Yet, the very first time I baked a cheesecake, I did do it. And I didn't run to that person and say, ha ha ha, it's possible, because I wasn't safe to even show that person that it was possible. To this day, that person and I still disagree about cheesecakes, but we do it on a silent level because I know that person is not able to slow down their life enough to become self aware of why they're not able to bake a cheesecake. Okay. So that's my really, really small thing that I didn't think I could do. And I kept myself from even trying to bake a cheesecake for a fuck long time. And I can still remember the first cheesecake that I took out of the oven, and it was beautiful. But what it really took was me being patient, me following the directions, me making sure the environment, just like the directions said, was correct and appropriate and healthy. So it was me being willing to open myself up to the vulnerability of following a recipe exactly, and setting everything that person had, those preconceived notions, out of my head because they weren't real, right? There's an entire restaurant chain in the United States called the Cheesecake Factory. They're built on the notion that cheesecakes can be built successfully with bazillions of toppings and ingredients. And they have an entire successful restaurant chain. So clearly this person is, living like an ostrich with their head in the sand. And I think that we just need to take that analogy and we need to give ourselves a moment where we thought something was impossible because somebody else told us that it was. But then we proved to ourselves, for us, it wasn't impossible. So I'm going to give you we'll do 15 seconds. I'm going to allow you to just visualize that and feel how it feels to go from I am not successful at this to wow, I did that. Starting in 3, 2, 1. That feels pretty good, doesn't it? Feels good when we accomplish things that we were told we couldn't, or that we were led to believe that we couldn't. So some of the reasons that we get stuck is because we've been taught to play it safe, or we've been shamed in areas of our life And so we have kind of put ourselves into this little corner and we're going to play it safe. We're going to be successful because we're going to stay in this cozy, comfortable, secure, unthreatened space. Although the problem with that is that we can't grow when we're not challenged. And we also are going to stay within what we know. So if we've normalized narcissistic relationships, emotionally detached relationships, not feeling all of our feelings, if we have never been allowed to safely face our fears and grow and step into the unknown, we are going to shy away from things that are asking us to do that. And your dreams, your goals are on the other side of you staying in your comfort zone. Even the relationships that you have are reflective of, am I being safe? I remember normalizing abuse for my entire 5 decades, saying, well, this is as good as it gets. It can't possibly be any different. Doesn't everybody have relationships that are rageful, intimidating, stalking, terrifying, emotionally shallow, what's that word? Accountable on both sides? Only one side is accountable? It was a very codependent behavior that I had. But what I learned when I became brave and I stopped playing it safe and I started learning about and I started taking calculated risks of learning about my normal and facing my fears, stepping into the unknown, I learned that I was living in a toxic life, that my own codependency was keeping me there. So if we are dreaming of something different, we have to look at, how am I showing up for me? How am I playing it safe? Or how am I being bold and courageous? Okay. We're focused. We're going to move on to the next one here. We're focused on negative. Life has some negative points. I'm going to give you that. And it has some challenges. And that's just life. Everybody's life has some pitfalls and some difficult things. And it's how we handle our view of the negative. Is that just a part of my day, or is it consuming everything? Am I ruminating on it? Am I focusing more on the negative, pessimistic life around me than on my optimistic, positive interactions with life around me? We have to look at, how am I showing up to appreciate my life? If I'm only capable, if my trauma lens is keeping me at what's going wrong, well, by God, I'm going to miss out on a hell of a lot that's going right. So if you're stuck in that mode, I would really encourage a blessings journal or a blessings diary, and allow those blessings to fill up the page every single day, multiple times a day. Every time that something good happens, that you stop and you jot that down in your blessings journal. I had to literally do that in my first year of recovery from narcissistic abuse. I literally had to keep a journal of all the good things that were happening to me because I couldn't see past the pain and the trauma. I couldn't see past it. So it's really, really important to ask yourself, am I being pessimistic or optimistic? And what could I do to challenge my view? So this next one is going to push on our victimhood mindset. Now, I'm a big proponent that you have to hit the reality that you're a victim before you can begin to heal. But are we staying there? Do we have the ability to be reflective of ourselves, to be self-aware? If we are showing up in our life and we're avoiding self-reflection, then we are avoiding personal growth. It is a habit. Like, if you are not growing, and if you are not showing up in your life and progressing in your life towards your dreams and you feel stuck, take a look at your self-reflection imprint. You might be shying away from self-reflection because it's uncomfortable. And we have especially when we start out at it, a very big fear and embarrassment or even shame around seeing our own shortcomings. However, if we cannot see our shortcomings, we will stay stuck. We can never grow. And we'll end up repeating the same behaviors over and over again. And we'll literally create a shallowness, a space of inhibited progress. There's an interesting study that was published in the Harvard Business Review, and it found that leaders who engaged in self-reflection were more productive and less likely to burn out. Now, even despite knowing that, many people, and I wish that I had a study that evidenced this, but I believe that it has to do largely with what we were taught. If we were raised in survival mode or if we were raised in love mode. Because if you're raised in a home of love, you're safe and comfortable to explore and grow. And you have, those training wheels of parents who afford you the safety to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. Whereas if you're raised in survival mode, everything is punishable and criticized and critical. And you learn to shrink and to make not much of a wave or a footprint. And you don't feel comfortable making mistakes because those mistakes are going to be mocked and pointed out. And it's going to be very, very terrifying. So take a look at your ability to be self-reflective or your inability to be self-reflective. Are you blaming other people for your situation in life? It is a significant behavior of people who are not making the progress in their life, in their goals, in their dreams, that they will blame others for all their misfortunes. Now, we've all blamed somebody else, right? Rightfully or wrongfully. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those people who just sit there and they never look within them for their own role in the things that are happening. It's always somebody else's fault. I had 5 decades of being surrounded by narcissistic relationships where it was always somebody else's fault, never theirs. So we can't control everything that happens to us. We can only control how we react. And if you are surrounded by people who are constantly blaming others, who fail to take responsibility, then you're in a really toxic environment. And if you yourself are taking part in that, it is time to grow up and wake up and to begin learning from those mistakes and develop a sense of personal accountability. And that's going to lead you to beautiful growth opportunities and a different path in life where you can become more attuned to what your dreams and goals are asking you to aspire to in order to achieve. People who resist change are honestly going to struggle to advance and progress in their life because change is the most expected and normalized part of life. And again, if you didn't learn that in childhood, it is going to be incredibly terrifying. If you're codependent or have codependent tendencies or coming out of narcissistic abuse, your life's safety mechanism is boundaried by control. And the aspect of change is utterly terrifying. So everything on the other side of that control is, new experiences, new opportunities, that growth and improvement and learning to accept, adapt, and to change will open you up to progress and opportunity in areas that you right now have no ability to imagine. Here's a really good one. I love this idea that our intuition, like that light inside of us, our passions, that we don't have the right to explore those, right? Have you ever been told no, no, you don't get to do that? Being an astronaut is for other people. Being a policeman, being a fireman, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being a writer, being a scientist, being a chef. Your passions are what define your footprint of love in your life. Like pursuing the things that ignite your soul's passion and fire and sparks and energy and creativity, that bring you a sense of goodness and fulfillment, right? That light up your life and the world around you. If you're neglecting that, you are living small. So you've got to dig into, why am I neglecting what actually lights me up? Why am I neglecting the things that I'm most passionate about? Am I feeling pressured to be a part of society's expectations or my family's expectations for me? Or do I believe that I don't have the resources or the time to dedicate to this? And again, if that's the belief, then I want you to go back to the beginning and that exercise that we did. If we just start to show up for ourselves, the resources, the time, those things can open up for us if we start getting real about what's happening in our life. Because the absolutely destructive, heartbreaking reality of people who ignore their passions, dim their soul's light, and live small is that we get deeper and deeper disconnected from our purpose, from our drive in life. And it keeps us in unhealthy spaces. It keeps us disgruntled, dissatisfied with our life, and that we stagnate. Okay? Are we living small, and are we staying away from the progress that our life desires for us, that our innate soul's desire for us has, that yearning? Are we doing that because we are afraid? Are we afraid of failure? Do we have a core belief that we're not good enough, that we're not going to be able to live up to those ideas? Are we afraid of taking the chances? Are we afraid of the unknown? If we're stuck in a cycle, living the same year of our life over and over and over, I'm 54 years old, and I have lived the same year of my life over and over and over for 49 of those years. There were small changes, but it was the same fear. It was the same self-abandonment. It was the same neglectful of self, neglectful showing up for myself. We have to realize that having fear and failing at things is not the end of anything. It is actually the beginning of new opportunities, because it is in our greatest moments of that big, scary word failure that we learn truly what we want to do and how we can do it better. If you have fear and you have fear of failure, it's holding you back. And every time that we fail, we have the opportunity to learn and grow and come back better. We cannot succeed in our life if we never open ourselves up to having failed at something. Funny note on that, I actually have failed at baking cheesecakes before, but the thing that's interesting is lots of times when we have failure in our life, we can still pull off a positive end result. For instance, cheesecake, if the top cracks, it's really not a big deal, because there are lots of cheesecake toppings that you can mix up and you can put on the top of a cracked cheesecake, and nobody who cuts into that cheesecake will ever be the wiser. Perfect example where
The paralysis of the fear of failing can be overcome even if we're imperfect in our results. Okay? We have got to show up in our life with some self-discipline, and that's what Nita has lacked. I have lacked the self-discipline to create really strong boundaries around me to protect my time because I work from home and I have 4 kids and it gets busy in a lot of animals. So we have to have self-discipline. Self-discipline is what will take us into the spaces and the goals and the dreams that we want. It is the bridge or the thread. It is the thread between our goal and the accomplishment. If we don't have self-discipline, which is literally what my therapy session was largely about last week, my self-discipline, what is it looking like? What am I doing? How can I amend it? How can I make it a little bit better? Because I want to reach my goals. It is hard to create self-discipline if we have never been exposed to it. Right? And if you lived in suppressive relationships or you were born into narcissistic or suppressive or abusive relationships, you are not going to have likely experienced the support for self-discipline in areas that are important to you. Now, you would have been gifted this self-discipline area in areas of your talents and gifts that were important to the abuser or the neglectful person. And that's an important distinction because our codependent tendencies can be very tied to what we know already from our past, and our PTSD can drag us there really, really easy. But we want to work on severing that thread. We want to build the thread of what's important and valuable to me as an independent individual. What's going to better my life, fuel my soul's purpose and passion, and how do I get there without these toxic trails to my past? Because my brain is hardwired, my subconscious is hardwired to those until I do a lot of self work, until I become very self aware and self disciplined and start to do that work and heal my soul. And I think that we need to really talk about a lack of self belief. If we do not have a belief in ourselves, and it's really, really hard to cultivate, and it's impossible. Let's just amend that. It's impossible to cultivate a self belief when you have been born into a space of neglectfulness where you're surviving. If we were born to survival mode, we didn't learn through the unconditional love that we are worthy, and we are enough, and we are capable. This internal belief system was denied us. And so we have to take time to cultivate that. And we might need to cultivate that daily. One of the very early tools that I did to believe this and to cultivate this internal belief system was affirmations. I wrote them, I said them out loud, I chanted them, I mindfulnessly practiced them during meditative moments and states. I listened to them on meditative mantras over and over and over. I put them as reminders throughout my entire house. And I worked really, really hard on self recovery after narcissistic abuse. And it still took a long time. And I still have moments of self-doubt. And I have, so that when we've worked on it for a long time, and we still have moments of self-doubt. Remember, I'm 5 decades into a belief system that I've been breaking for 4 years. Now that I am working with a new belief system, it's important that the people around me reflect that new belief system as well. It's important that my children reflect it, right? Because we hold each other accountable to a better, healthier way of interacting with one another. It's important that my boyfriend, that he and I be on that same page, that we be really growth minded, that we be able to point out when the other one is promoting a self limiting old behavior, that we do that with kindness, compassion, and that we don't demand change, that we just say, oh, hey, are you aware that you're doing this? And that the other one feels safe. And friends, the friends that are allowed to be in my life need to be at this space as well. And that's a big change, because right now, if you look around you in your life, how many people do you have in your life who can hold space for you and challenge respectfully, safely, challenge your self limiting beliefs and behaviors? I bet you can count them on one hand. And if you think that you can count them on two hands, I would challenge you to this exercise. Get out your little journal or a piece of paper, write down those people, and then sit with each one of those names for a full 60 seconds. For a full 60 seconds. And if the conflict of their behavior and your interaction with them isn't having the needle go up to 100 and then down and up to 100 and down, like you're in conflict about that name, right? It can stay on the paper. If you're in conflict about that name because they have traits or you don't feel safe, I would urge you to put a line through that person's name. Not that you need to get rid of them out of your journey today, like ghost them or call them up and say, you're out of my life. But just be aware, become aware. Is this person's behavior building my life healthily? Or are they keeping me stuck in unhealthy, unsafe patterns? Okay, I am asking you to just become more aware. Okay, so we're going to close out our conversation because we're reaching our 30-minute coaching time frame together. And I've given you so much to work on today. It is important that we really take a look at how we're showing up for ourselves in our life, because our path to our dreams, the possibility of our dreams becoming our reality, it is not a straight line. It is going to be filled with cliffhangers, falling off the cliff, climbing back up the cliff, getting stuck in the tar traps, getting chased by dinosaurs, and having an ice cream sundae and having the perfect cup of coffee and successes and learning and growing and facing our failures and getting up to do it all again the next day. And it isn't something that I want you to be overwhelmed with or to approach with, this is going to happen by tomorrow. Today's journey is about you just opening yourself up to be a bit more self-aware about areas that you want to learn how to grow in, and promising to yourself that I am worthy of the small step that it's going to take today to create an opportunity to change, that I am worthy of self-forgiveness, self-compassion. I will be patient with myself. I am learning new behaviors. I am not my past, and I am loving the opportunity that my life is affording me. The only person that you're in competition with in your life is who you were 1 minute ago. This is an opportunity to build a belief in you, because you are worth that. Your soul's light is worth that belief being fostered and watered and growing. So keep showing up for you just like you did today. Thank you. And I am so proud of you. I look forward to seeing you at Infinity Within's next coaching session.